Okay, Anna, do you have an option to share your screen? Perfect. Okay, take it away.
Are you guys able to see my screen? Okay, awesome. So for my passion project, it's focused on reducing the use of single-use plastic bottles. And before we jump in, here's a little bit about myself. My name is Anna. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm a rising senior at Somerville High School in Massachusetts. And for the last month, I've been working with EcoRise and my mentors, Stephen Burke, Elizabeth Allen, and Olivia Brown at Consigli Construction. And my time at Consigli has really broadened my perspective towards the construction industry and also has led me to connect with many other professionals in different sustainable and green careers, which has better helped me understand what I wanted to do with my future as I head into my senior year. And so how did I get involved with sustainability and environmental work? This really started when I entered high school, and my knowledge around my consumption and environmental impact has started growing. And since then, especially the pandemic last year, my perspective towards the environment has really changed and pushed me towards the work that I've been doing and what I want to do. I just saw how much unnecessary waste we were creating and how avoidable it was, and how that was very rapidly changing our environment. And I just want to help be the change that I want to see and help make our future better by bringing awareness and raising accessibility to sustainable practices. And, you know, alongside that, I'm very interested in sustainable fashion. And that has also just led me to be more aware about the things that I need and how much use in life I'll get out of things. And so at Consigli, I at first didn't know what it was and was just expecting to work with a bunch of like old men, but that really was not my experience. And so it is a general contracting company, which is working to build a greener future. And what started as one man, Stephen, my mentor, has grown into teams working to implement their sustainable goals. And they're doing this by creating net zero buildings, getting their buildings LEED certified, creating the Arch Energy team, and signing on to the contractor's commitment. And these are the two women that I've been working with, Elizabeth and Olivia, for most of the time. And so you might be wondering, what is Arch Energy and the contractor's commitment? Arch Energy is a recently created division of Consigli, which focuses on reducing a building's carbon emissions and creating healthier buildings through their materials and things, and prioritizing the people. And this kind of goes hand in hand with the contractor's agreement, which is a set of beliefs for sustainable contracting. And those beliefs are carbon reduction, job site wellness, waste management, water management, and material selection. And these three that I highlighted here are the ones that really stuck out to me, because if it wasn't for the internship, I would not have known that these were impacts of construction and in building, especially because I live in a city and it is so prevalent around me every day. And these are also what I focused on in my water bottle alternatives. And so we want to help get rid of single-use plastics at Consigli. And over the last 3 years, the cost of how much they were spending on plastic water bottles increased 10 times, which is insane. It's a lot of money they were going to water bottles. And so every year, over 50 billion plastic water bottles are being used in the United States. And those that do get sent to recycle, only 12% are actually getting recycled, while the others end up in landfills and in our oceans. And so plastic water bottles are made with polyethylene terephthalate or PET plastics, and these plastic bottles are produced from crude oil. And this is a picture of the machines that they use to pump crude oil from the ground, and which is really harmful for the environment. And the process in itself of just like getting the machine there is also very dangerous for workers. And so, as you can imagine, a lot of oil is being used, and 1/4 of a water bottle is how much oil took to produce just one water bottle. And every water bottle produces 82 grams of carbon dioxide. And then the PET plastic contributes an additional 70 grams of carbon dioxide emissions. And so these water bottles also contain chemicals such as bisphenol A or BPA and phthalates. And this, when water bottles are exposed to warm environments or under the sun for a long time, these chemicals start to get released into the water. And BPA and phthalates can disrupt your body and its systems, adversely affecting your hormones and fertility. And so during the same time, when these are being released, the microplastics are also being released as the bottle starts to degrade. And these are basically just very small fragments of plastic, which marine animals can ingest thinking it's food or just ingest as they are living in the water. And these particles, similar to humans, can cause disruptions in the body, such as starvation because their stomachs are filled with plastic, and even death. And so this ends up in a cycle where it ends up in the marine organisms and it comes back to the humans who eat these animals. And so not only are marine organisms being harmed, but so are we. And so what can we do what are our alternatives that we can use? First, we have plastic reusable bottles. And so these use less resources and energy compared to glass and metal alternatives, but these still use lots of fossil fuels. And it's still, generally recycling is a difficult process, and not everything is always able to get recycled. And while many water bottles today are BPA free, they still contain many chemicals and end up in landfills. But out of the three options between glass, plastic, and metal, if you were going to buy the bottles wholesale for a company, the price ranges to be the cheapest from 40 cents to 90 cents. And then we have glass bottles, and this takes the most resource and energy to produce and to recycle, but glass is infinitely recyclable and it doesn't lose its purity or quality of the glass, but it does have to go to special facilities to be processed, unlike metal or plastic. And so it has a higher impact because it does take more effort to produce it. And this one lands in the middle for cost wholesale between 80 cents and upwards of $1. And then lastly, we have metal, and this is in between glass and plastic because it takes more energy than plastic and less energy than glass. One of the two common materials in metal water bottles are stainless steel and aluminum, which are infinitely recyclable and less difficult to recycle than glass. And this also has lots more energy to produce because to source the metal and to shape it takes much more time than plastic. And this also comes out to be the most expensive alternative, between $1 and upwards of $5. But with this in mind, all of these alternatives have their pros and cons. And with that, I believe that having a metal bottle would be the best alternative to bring to Kinseekly because it has a longer life and it is corrosion resistant and durable compared to glass, which would just break, and it's really heavy and you don't want to be carrying that around all day. And also because it has an aspect that neither of the other bottles do, which is that it can keep liquids cold or hot for longer time in different climates. And this is especially crucial in the construction industry where constructors are working all day in the heat, and important for them to stay hydrated. And so with that, do you guys have any questions?
Anna, thank you so much. That was excellent. Just want to remind everybody that we'll do 5 minutes for questions. So this portion is simply to ask Anna to elaborate on anything that she shared, and then we'll provide time for feedback after that. So we'll open the floor for questions. You can just unmute yourself and use verbally ask the question.
I have a question. For metal water bottles, are they all created equal? Is there a standard material they're all made of? That's the best choice.
I believe I think stainless steel would be better because it would just hold up longer and also just look better for you without like getting all like scratches and things like that. But I am also biased towards metal bottles because I have a metal bottle and I think it works pretty nicely. So I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense. Like everything else in the kitchen is stainless steel. So that's probably the number one option.
Yeah. Does anyone else have any other questions?
I'll jump in. Have you presented this to consigli beyond the folks that are on this call, and what's the kind of reception to it?
No, I haven't presented this to anyone else. We'll have to see their feedback, I guess.
I have a question. Anna, that was really great. I appreciate that. I was really fascinated that you kind of honed in on the waste management and the materials management. I have some family members in some industries where that was quite a shock to me. And I'm really curious to know a little bit more about why those stood out to you.
You meant when in buildings, okay. Because I just really would never have like ever thought about that unless I was like a builder myself, or if I hadn't been in this internship, I really would not have ever realized that like these giant buildings take a lot of materials to produce, and a lot of materials are getting thrown away, and some of the materials you can't just like throw them away. There's like proper disposal methods which have to be, and like precautions that have to be taken so it's not causing a harm to other people. And I really would never have thought of that. And so that's why it just really interested me.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
We have a question in the chat from Ren who asks, they're curious as to why you chose stainless steel rather than BPA-free plastic water bottles.
Once again, this just goes towards my bias towards metal water bottles because I personally like my water to be a certain temperature, and I don't think plastic bottles do that job of keeping your water cold. Or I mean, if you want warm water, then that can be nice too, but I just like it cold, and so that's why I wouldn't want a plastic bottle.
Do we have any other questions, either verbally or in the chat, before we move on to the feedback portion?
I had a quick question about your thoughts about availability of bottle filling stations and publicly available sources of water.
Sorry, so what's your question?
If you have any thoughts, do you think there's sufficient, bottle filling stations, publicly available water, if we're all going to make this good switch to water bottles?
Right.
That's something you thought about?
I haven't done much research into this, but I don't think there are enough available. I know they're like around schools and in parks, but like I don't see them around in like work areas, like no areas that are known to be for working people. And I know like in the building that I have my job in, I always just bring my water bottle from home, but I never know what to do if I finish my water because I don't know where to get water from without buying like a water bottle to refill it or use the bathroom water, which I don't really want to do. So I think we should have more of those. And I think that's something that we should definitely invest in, is having more public water filling stations.
Okay, great questions. Let's move into the feedback portion. What would you like to share in terms of what you liked about this presentation, or what suggestions that you have for Anna?
I can jump in real quick. I think That was a great job, Anna. Sorry we missed the beginning of it.
No worries.
But I love how you emphasized like what works best on the job site for the construction workers, because that's like what we talked about for a lot of it. Is it's such a tricky issue to get something that works for the environment and for the company itself. Yeah, so I just think you did a great job.
Thank you.
I'm just going to jump in really quick to let you know that it was a great presentation, all very well put together, and it was relayed, the message was relayed really nicely. But yeah.
I'm happy to jump in again. I really appreciated, to speak to the point that was brought up earlier, kind of thinking about that, all aspects of it, the people, profit, and planet. Because if you come up with a solution that doesn't think about the people that it's serving, it might not be a feasible solution. So I really appreciate that. I have one piece of feedback for consideration. I really liked your cost analysis. And I think one thing that could be interesting, you did mention it, but I wonder if there's a way to visualize the long-term cost of plastic versus glass versus metal, because one of the things that I heard you say is that some of those are more easily recyclable and infinitely recyclable. And I think that's a really good point and something that's worth kind of highlighting as you're sharing those the cost benefit to each one of those options.
Yeah, thank you. I was gonna mention how well, I'm blanking on this again. It was just like how everything is very different to recycle, and even if you do think you're putting it to be recycled, like a lot of that does not end up getting recycled because of all of the constraints of recycling, especially if you're like specifically trying to recycle certain materials.
I think there's feedback, Abby, in the chat from Ren.
Oh, thanks, Christy. Yeah, so Ren had said, I like that you had short sentences and bullet points rather than long paragraphs, very helpful. I would agree. I thought the design and presentation was very clear and straightforward and powerful. And I can also piggyback on that and say that I really like the depth that you gave to the environmental impact of plastic. A lot of times when I see these presentations, it's just they pollute, they fill up, they find them in the ocean, they harm animals. And I thought you did a really comprehensive job of explaining sort of the science behind why it's so detrimental to our environment. And I also really liked the cost benefit analysis to Christy's point from a lot of different point of views across the different materials. You may have addressed this in the very beginning and I missed it, but I wonder, I guess this is a question and a piece of feedback, which is, I wonder the degree to which you interviewed people or did any sort of stakeholder analysis about workers' perspectives on this and willingness or their feelings about using different types of materials. If you did, I'd love to hear what it is, and if not, it's a suggestion maybe for next time.
Yeah, we briefly went over this, but like already at Consigli, they have like practically like similar to Nalgene plastic bottles, but they wanted to move towards like a larger initiative and like a better alternative for the future that like also works good for the constructors.
Thank you. We probably have time for one more person if anyone else would like to jump in.
That was a very well done presentation. You were obviously very well prepared. I think if I had any maybe suggestion, maybe the last slide before the questions being a summary so we can see the sort of pros and cons together. I think other people had sort of similar feedback, but I think that could have been a nice way to wrap things up.
Thank you.
Well, Anna, thank you so much. One of the biggest drawbacks to me of a Zoom room is our inability to give you a big kind of loud applause, but I think we can all do our best with our emojis and our snaps and our claps. Thank you so much. That was a fantastic presentation. And now, since you went first, you can sit back and have a sigh of relief. You set a high bar. So for all of those of you who are watching, feel free to get out your wiggles. I know we're here for 2 more presentations, and Hayes, you're up next. So whenever you're ready, we'll turn it over to you.
All right, let me share my screen real quick. And let me know if you can see that. Good. All right. So first off, I just want to introduce myself. My name is Hayes Turner, and my passion project for the summer relates to sustainability in food services. So a quick bio, who am I? My name is, as I said, Hayes Turner. I'm an incoming junior at the Liberal Arts and Science Academy in Austin, Texas. My hobbies include soccer, chess, and rock climbing. And I interned for Diane Grodek, who is the executive chef for AISD. And I'll get to a little bit more on her later. But I want to talk about my passion a little bit as well. So coming into this internship, I really wanted to learn as much as possible about how our food systems impact the environment. So how we can reduce food waste and how production can be changed to, with the environment in mind. So I worked with my mentor, and I was able to see the inner workings of where she works, which is the Food Services and Nutrition Department for Austin ISD. And I was able to learn a lot more about the initiatives they're taking to ensure that food distribution in our schools is healthy, sustainable, and equitable. Now, for my mentor, as I said, her name is Diane Grodek. She serves as the executive chef for the entire school district. As chef, she creates new recipes, helps plan menus, maintains kitchen equipment, trains staff, works with students in the community to teach cooking and nutrition classes. And lastly, she oversees the catering and concessions programs. So many tasks. I don't know how she does it. She's really incredible, but I've learned so much from her over these last 6 weeks. She's extremely passionate about sustainability, and you can really see that with the initiatives that they're taking on. So, she has a passion for cooking as well, reducing waste and community involvement. And that was a big one for me because, well, as you'll see, my project is very involved with the community. This in her bio, it says her position as executive chef is her dream job. So she's really, really admirable, I would say. Now for my project. So my project was restoring the lively middle school garden for the Austin ISD Garden to Cafe program. And I'll explain in a little bit what the Garden to Cafe program is, but essentially I was repairing a local school garden while creating an effective green learning space for students. So very hands-on. So when we're looking at the purpose of the Garden to Cafe program, there's kind of 4 main goals that it's trying to achieve. The first one is to ensure that students have access to fresh veggies and herbs grown on campus. And they already have access to fresh veggies and herbs, but it's the on-campus part that's really important to this program. Another thing is to provide students with a green space for outdoor learning opportunities. This is really important when you're growing up to have access to these outdoor spaces where you can go and get out of the classroom and learn in a new environment. And thirdly, one of the purposes is to allow kitchen staff to utilize the produce that the students grow in the garden. And this reduces the amount that they have to buy from the district. And lastly, it helps address childhood obesity by extending the lessons learned in the garden to the school cafe. So the biggest hurdle that I had to jump over was meeting the safety requirements of the program. And that's pretty much what I focused most of my time on. And there's a long list of requirements that have been given to us by the district for what needs to happen in terms of safety, water quality, contamination protection, compost and pesticide usage, and then harvesting and sanitation practices in order for it to be safe for the kids to eat. So these include, as in the picture on the right over here, water used for irrigation must be obtained from a public water system. Gardens must be protected from other forms of contamination by an appropriate method such as a physical barrier. And you're not allowed to use synthetic pesticides or herbicides around the garden. And those are mostly safety concerns, but they're all really important in getting it certified. So I want to talk a little bit about my 3 biggest hurdles in getting it approved. And we still haven't gotten approved, but we should soon. I think around April 9th is the date we've set for surveying the garden and trying to make sure it meets all the requirements. But the 3 biggest tasks that I've worked on up until now were protecting the garden from animals and contamination with a fence barrier. So repairing the fence, and I'll get to that a little later because it was a huge task to take on. Keeping the surrounding area free of weeds and debris to prevent harborage places for pests. So weeding and making sure that everything is orderly and there's not a lot of places for little animals to live. And lastly, creating a clean and organized space for the tools, gloves, and other equipment. So this was cleaning out the tool shed and getting it ready to go for the coming school year. Now, I want to talk a little bit about my proudest achievement, which is fixing the fence. I'd say I spent at least 2 weeks just completely working on the fence. It was really in poor shape, and there's 3 reasons why. But these are the things that I did to repair it and get it so that domestic animals around the garden couldn't get in. And so the first step that I took was fixing broken, twisted, and rusty panels. So, this fence has been there for a long time, and it's taken a lot of battering from students in the weather. Many portions were severely twisted out of place or broken or missing completely. So they had to be replaced or bent back. And then my next step was to reattach the bent and drooping the fence. So the middle schoolers, they can be tough to control. And I know I'm just kind of reading off of what I said here, but over the past couple years, there's been a tendency for students to lean on the fence, and it puts a really big strain on the metal paneling. So I went around to every panel and stapled it back on to the wood posts so that it would, have a little bit more structure to it. And then lastly, I added new panels to keep out the pests. So in areas where it was too hard to fix, I cut out the old panels and replaced it with some new panels that had been given to me. Moving on, I just have some before and after pictures of the garden. And something that you'll notice is this plastic on the right side over here. And I just want to preface that by saying that is solarizing plastic. And what it does is you lay it down for around 6 to 4 weeks. And what it does is it kills the weeds underneath, and then you remove it and you can put mulch down or a weed barrier after that, just so you don't have to deal with weeds in the pathways. And that was a really big one. The weeds were one of the toughest things to combat. And in order to really fight them, I organized a volunteer day where we had a couple community members and a couple teachers for the school come out and help me weed the beds. And so these are the pictures on the left are pictures before volunteer day. And then the pictures on the right are pictures after the volunteer day. So you can see the plastic's been laid down. The beds have been weeded, and we're already starting to plant some new plants. So you see peppers, the eggplants, those were already there. And then we're starting the tomatoes. So really awesome stuff. I was so thankful to have willing volunteers come out and help me. like they did. And then I just want to talk a little bit about my experience. I won't talk about all of this, but some of the most important things to me was the opportunity to work in a real office space. And this was extremely valuable experience because you can't really mimic that in any other way. And getting to work in the office with my mentor, Diane, and all of her coworkers, some really incredible people, it was a really great experience for me. And then another high was learning how to set goals and ask for help. And this was something that I think I struggled with coming into the internship, learning how to figure out what I really want to accomplish each day and each week, and then asking for help from people who are more experienced than I am to achieve these goals. And I want to talk about a couple setbacks. I have them here as lows, but one of my biggest setbacks was, or struggles, I would say, was my lack of experience, especially in the gardening space, because I'm not a gardener. I don't have too much gardening experience, and that took a lot of work and research to kind of help me build more understanding about what I'm doing. And then forward thinking, I think that I could have spent a lot more time planning beforehand so I could, really see what I want to accomplish by the end of each week. And this really would have helped me organize my thoughts and, achieve my goal quicker than I did. And lastly, not having enough resources and time. I'm only 16. I just got a car, but I don't have very many tools. And so a lot of these things, a lot of these tasks were, really tedious. Like the fixing the fence took a lot longer than it did. And that was because, I didn't have a pneumatic staple gun. I didn't have a drill, it was, I had to use what I had on hand to address the problem. And I think that that helped me because I learned how to assess the situation and, use what I have on hand to accomplish my goal. So we're done with the text. I'm sorry there was so much of it, but I just want to kind of showcase what we've really accomplished in the past 6 weeks. So here I have my photos. In the bottom left, you can see probably my proudest photo. That was the sunset right after we finished volunteer day. We had laid down some of the plastic. You can see the beds have been weeded. And then moving to the right side of the screen, you can see more weeded beds. You can see the Budai statuette that watches over the garden, kind of like our little mascot. Some of the signage for the water and the compost. And I've been working on making new signs for that. My arch nemesis, the very temperamental wheelbarrow, which I finished on the very last day I was there. And then we just have some more photos of tomatoes, looking at, which ones to buy. And then an inside look at the food services warehouse, which is where I worked. That's pretty much all I have. I want to say thank you all for your time and, giving me the feedback that you're about to. I'd also like to thank Diane Grodek, my mentor, all the wonderful people at the Food Service Center, and all the help they've given me as well. Brittany Morgan, who is the teacher volunteer, who's been helping me so much in getting the Lively Middle School Garden approved for the Garden to Cafe program. But that's all I have. Thank you so much again. And I hope to get some good feedback from you guys, because I'm sure there's a lot.
Thank you so much, Hayes. That was fantastic. You're welcome to stop sharing if you like. There we go. I can kick it off with a question, and also just a shout out also to Diane and this work. Austin ISD is one of the most innovative and sustainable food service systems in the country. So Hayes, I'm so glad you had the opportunity to work with Diane. And Hayes, my question is, what's something that really surprised you about the AISD food services that you didn't know before, something that you learned during the internship?
I would say it really surprised me how much just pure work they're actually putting into sustainability, and what's limiting them is more, it's not, well, I've been at the district for for school for the past like 11 years of my life. And for a very long time, I had a lot of preconceived notions about the food and, how, healthy or tasty it is. But I really got to see how much work everyone's putting into trying to buy more sustainable food. And Diane talked to me a lot about the processes they have to go through to figure out which ones are sourced most sustainably and which ones are healthiest for the kids. And it's really impressive to see how much work is going on. And I think it's really going in a good direction for sure, especially with stuff like this garden to cafe program.
Thanks so much, Hayes. We have a question in the chat asking a reference to the volunteer day that you mentioned, and if you could explain more about the process of recruiting volunteers or spreading awareness about the garden in general.
Yeah, for sure. This is something I really kind of had to, learn about for the first time. I've never really recruited volunteers before for any project. And so this one, I must say, I was kind of thrown into a system that had already been in place with volunteers who had control over each individual bed. So I tried to build off that by sending out a big Sign Up Genius. I got Diane's help in putting it out to the Lively Facebook page. But it really is all about the connections. And if I hadn't had Diane's help or, some connection to the district, it would have been really hard to recruit volunteers. So I'm really thankful that, we have tools like Facebook now and Sign Up Genius so we can get the word out. But there was also a system in place already for volunteers. And the people that I got helping me were already volunteers for the garden. So I was really lucky to have that.
I just want to say how proud we are of Hayes. He did a really great job, and he was really working with very minimal structure and materials, as he said, and tools and all of those kind of things. And he was a real self-starter. He asked for advice. I tried to give him like the tools he needed to get the job done, and he really ran with it. So really proud of you. Great job. And it was a lot of work, a lot of actual labor in the sun. And I'm so glad I got to spend time in the office too and just kind of see how we work together and get some real life office experience. So great job.
Well, thank you. And the office experience really was super helpful. And I'm really glad that you put me onto a project that was so hands-on, because I probably would have gone crazy if I had to do something online for the entire time.
I think that resonates with all of us. And I'm really curious, school gardens and, any kind of outdoor features are always a challenge in maintaining. What words of wisdom or kind of learnings or offerings might you have for some of the adults at either, any of these campuses where we have these outdoor gardens for kind of long-term maintenance? Like what are some top things you think should be considerations?
I don't know. Well, let's say this one might kind of be taken the wrong way, but use the kids for help, I would say. That's one of the things that's going to help us as, a ton this coming year, is that we have a teacher, Brittany Morgan, who leads classes, who are, have the opportunity to go outside and work in the garden. And you've got all the students involved. Yeah, like what you said in the chat, Christy. It's one of the best ways to get students involved in what their school is doing. And outdoor learning is so valuable. And I didn't really have a lot of that in my elementary school or middle school career. Working on something, a task together, it's great team building. It's just good to get outside. And so I think using the students to kind of work on a project together because it is their school, that would be one of the most important things I had to say.
Thank you.
I love that, Hayes. Okay, let's transition into feedback. Who would like to share some feedback with Hayes? What did you love and what suggestions do you have?
Yeah, Hayes. I really like your presentation. I really like the animation that you put in it. That was really nice. So yeah, it's really well made, and it really attracted the viewers who are watching.
Thank you. It was my first time using Canva, and I really, really liked it. I've been using Google Slides for my entire life, but I would definitely recommend it because, you know, a lot of stuff is free and you can just use all the animations they have preloaded onto it. So I'd really recommend that.
Yeah, it seemed like you're a pro at it.
It was my first time, but thank you.
I think for anyone else doing these types of projects, these sort of more hands-on projects in the future, like nothing is better than a good before and after photo. So make sure to always take photos of your process, which is what Hayes did. And when you see that what he's working with and what he started with, you get a better sense of how much effort went into it.
I totally agree on the photos. I think the presentation was very well designed. I think you called yourself out for this already earlier, Hayes, the amount of text. I think that would be my, on a presentation tip, would be my suggestion would be to bullet point some of the things and then just kind of prepare verbally to share it, more of the text, just for the eyes. But I think you balanced it really nicely with photos.
Yeah, for sure. I think the reason I have so much text is maybe I just get a little worried about forgetting things. And so I just need to find a better way to, you know, have a list of things I need, like, you know, bullet points I need to hit, and then just have the big info up on the screen. But thank you.
And if you guys are ever building out your presentations in Google Slides, there is that section on the bottom that only you can see. So you can stick to the bullet points and then put your own notes on the bottom.
All right, any last pieces of feedback for Hayes before we move on? Okay, well, fantastic job, Hayes. Such a cool project. Great presentation. I'll give you a big round of applause, emoji, snaps, whatever it is you want to do to show your appreciation. Fantastic. Okay. All right, y'all, we're moving into the home stretch. We have one more. You can wiggle it out if you need to. I know it's a lot of screen time. Arshan, last but not least, you're up. So whenever you're ready, you can take it away.
All right, yeah, share my screen. Okay, yeah, you can see it move around, right? Good, okay. Yeah, so yeah, my name is Arshan Sharif. My mentor is Anna, and our project is about optimization of HVAC procedures oriented to energy efficiency. So about that air conditioning, HVAC means heating, ventilation, and air conditioning. Yeah. So a little bit about me. I'm a rising senior at Austin High School in Austin, Texas. I've been passionate about computer science for around 4 years. And more leaning towards sustainability in my chosen field. I'm trying to figure out how to implement sustainability in the computer science field to sort of help build a more sustainable and eco-friendly world. You can see this is my school right here. So a bit about my mentor, Ana Echeverria. She's at Austin ISD. She's an energy conservation specialist. She works for a company called Performance Services, which as a consultant, which AISD asked the team from that organization to help. Yeah, so she's an energy conservation specialist in automation and has an IT background. So Austin ISD, a little bit about it is it's a school district, and it's a really big school district, so it holds 132 facilities and yeah, a lot of students. So more about the project. So a little overview of it. I mainly was on controls of the heating and ventilation, air conditioning, and variable frequency drives, and thermostats that are in the room of schools. And also main problem that we were trying to help was the malfunctions that were happening in the equipment. So problems arise when the occupants in the schools, they don't know, they overuse the HVACs, and they don't know what it does to the environment and the costs. So replacing that equipment once it gets damaged by the occupants, it uses a lot of energy and cost and resources. So this is so we have a team of energy conservation at AISD. So I interviewed multiple people with different fields. So such as some of the fields we have as a controls technician, building operator, yeah, and and we have right here, this is Anna right here, this is her team. We have an energy water manager. And I kind of created this chart by myself to see who I needed to talk to, and who is connected with the energy conservation leadership program. So right here, this is one of the things I worked with was thermostats. I actually have this one, right? If I can open it, yeah. So this is what you have in schools, thermostat. So right here, this is the actual thing. So you can see right here, when teachers want it to be hotter, colder in the room, they can just slide this. This is roughly around 8, like a 4 plus or minus degree, hot or cold. Right here, I don't know if you can see it. There's like a red, right here, there's a red sensor, which uses the, why am I stuck? It takes a temperature around the room. So, and then using that temperature, it brings it to the connectors, which this should be wirings, but it's not connected. So it connects it to this little black thing called the connectors. And then it brings it to the controller, which is this right here. And then it brings it to the VFD. So, and then one of the parts of it is this button right here, which overrides the HVAC, and it gives 1 extra hour for the teachers who want to stay in the building longer. So a VFD is a variable frequency drive. So this right here is the entire thing. You can see right here, this is the thing I showed you. This is the controller. So I won't get too much into this. There's a lot of words. So right here is that controller. So you can program it to have set like timings and the frequency. The frequency is 20 to 60 hertz. So that's something. And inside the case, there's lots of equipment, circuits and stuff like that. And then right here, this is the programming of it. You can control the voltage. So now more onto the software of it. So this is what my mentor uses to look at every school in the district. You can see all the HVAC systems. So actually right here, these are all the stats, thermostats. You can see these are in each room. And then how this kind of works with the thermostat is this is a set point where once a room in a school building reaches like 71 degrees Fahrenheit, it would tell the HVAC to turn on the cooling, and then it'll start cooling the temperature down. And then if the room gets too cold, you have a heating set point, and it sort of increases the temperature. It'll tell the temperature to increase. So right here is a little motor fan. This is where my mentor can see whether VFD is correctly working. You can see this is at 100 speed. So that's using 60 hertz. And if you can go beyond 60 hertz, but that'll kind of use too much energy and it's kind of wasted. And this is at an elementary school. So so if we in elementary school, we have a thermostat that's malfunctioning. So this is kind of like the math behind it. You can see. And yeah, that's it. Thank you for all the people I interviewed. I met a lot of great people and learned about their background and how they got into the job and what they do for a living and how they help conserve energy in at AISD.
Thank you so much, Arshan. And stop sharing your screen whenever you're ready. All right, this is the question and answer portion. So go ahead and anyone can just pop in and ask your question.
I was wondering if it was too soon to see any kind of changes in the modernized schools that have like windows that aren't 60 to 80 years old and installation and all that. Can you guys chart any noticeable difference yet?
So when I was in this internship, I actually went to several schools. So I think you know a school called Ann Richards. So yeah, I went over there. I kind of took a tour of that school because they had all this new stuff, and they had like huge windows to help for lighting, so they don't use too much energy in the LEDs. So yeah, they also had that. They also had energy efficient HVAC systems. So these new schools, they're really helpful to the environment, and unlike the old schools like my school, Austin High, it's a really old school, uses a lot of energy, and it's always running. So yeah, it's noticeable.
Cool, thanks.
We have a question in the chat from Ren asking, what was your favorite thing and the thing that was the most difficult that was part of the project?
Yeah, so my favorite thing I think was meeting the new people that I interviewed. I think that was probably the best part because when I first came here, I thought only Anna was like involved with this entire thing, and then I got to meet I got to meet other people, and then yeah, I got to learn their background and what they do. I think that's probably the most fun. And for the most difficult, I think that would be the understanding how all these electronics work. So such as like the VFD and everything, because I'm really new to that stuff. And when I first came to this Internship sustainability, I actually never knew all this stuff in the schools, the air conditioning, actually how affected the environment and the cost. Yeah.
I love that you did a deep dive into this very technical topic. Right at the beginning, you mentioned that you don't think a lot of people have an understanding of the impacts that their choices are making as users. And I wondered if there's any kind of education or curriculum or anything that you might suggest to a school to help sort of share that information more broadly.
Yeah. I'm not really sure about that. Anna, do you want to help that?
Well, first of all, Arshan, thank you, because I know it's a very difficult subject. More talking about BFDs, that's very brave on a meeting. But yes, indeed, Austin ISD has in place the energy conservation program that is supported and sponsored by the Department of Sustainability. And that is with the purpose of educating our population about how their behavior in buildings affect the performance of them. That example that Arshan had there about the emissions, that is indeed a real example that happened here back in March of this year. Is one single thermostat. And tell us, Arshan, what happened when someone started to do this to a thermostat? Tell us.
So some teachers will start messing with the thermostat. So they'll start like covering at things to get like a certain temperature because of the sensor, and they'll start pressing the button like this button, and it starts malfunctioning, and it's giving the HVAC wrong, or the air conditioning wrong information. So then teachers will start to complain. So they complain like why it's getting so hot and cold, and Anna has to come in and tell them why, and she sees all this.
We need usually someone in engagement, whether from the school. That is applied in many schools nowadays in the US. I'm glad that finally someone is paying attention to emissions and energy conservation. Some do because of the cost, because it's an actual great expense that affect budgets in all the districts. Others do because they are more, they have more self-awareness about how we affect our environment. But we have sometimes a school the way one single thermostat that is not working is causing all of that you saw in the information the Arshan showed, and that is one single unit. We are talking on 132 campuses when there are plenty of units that are not working properly, and it's causing tons of emission, and there is not even occupants inside most of the time. So I have a question for you, Arshan. I probably shouldn't because I'm the mentor, right? So what did you learn overall, how that impacts consumption? I mean, how the consumption, how the usage of thermostat or the BFDs itself, what do you think? What is the impact it have on the environment and on the school expenses and sustainability? What does it mean in terms of sustainability?
Yeah, so as you said before about the elementary school thermostat thing, I think that's a very good example. Yeah, so if it's a malfunctioning thermostat, it can lead to high usages of carbon emissions, and which negatively impacts the environment. And also for the cost, AISD, it's a big school district, so even one thermostat can raise the price a lot and use a lot of energy at the district. And yeah.
Good question. Okay, feedback time. What feedback does everybody have for Arshan?
Yeah, Arshan, I really liked your slides, and I liked the theme that you had for it. I thought it worked really well. Just one thing I wanted to say is that I thought the fonts were like a little bit small, so it was just kind of hard to read it. But otherwise than that, I thought it was really good.
Okay, thank you. Yeah.
Thanks, Anna. I love the interns giving one another feedback. I think that's just as powerful as the mentors jumping in. Other pieces of feedback for Arshan?
Happy to give some feedback. I really appreciated the technical aspect of this presentation. I really appreciate you diving into this in your internship. I think it's just you know, for me as an educator or previous educator, it just highlights for me how capable young adults are in really like digging into these types of concepts and also sharing these concepts with others. I would say that I love that you included the math and the cost savings. And we talked earlier about that triple bottom line, the people, profit, and planet. And I think this is a really great example of demonstrating how, you know, our behaviors can impact the planet, but also the budget aspects as well. And really that financial piece is where you get the attention of the administrators and other district folks. And then they can then encourage behavior changes as well. So thank you for that.
Yeah, about that, yeah. When you talk to like big companies about this, you say all this like energy usage, they won't really don't notice that. They're not attracted to that. They're more attracted to money. So if you show them this how much money that they're wasting and stuff, they'll start to be like, oh, we need to fix this. Yeah, that's how big companies work.
Any last comments or pieces of feedback? Okay, well, let's give Arshan a big round of applause, emoji celebration, snaps. Well done, Arshan. And that is the end of our presentation portion. We were trying to all end at the same time and go back to the main room to close out, but I just don't think that's going to happen. So we're going to close out in this small group and let y'all go on your way a little bit early, give you back about 50 minutes of your day. But before we go, I want to say thank you so much immense gratitude from the EcoRise team to both the mentors and the students. Y'all are really incredible. And I know that this will be an experience that our students remember for the rest of their lives and will likely shape many of the decisions that they make, the opportunities that they have. And last but not least, we'd like you to please take a quick survey. This is for everybody. I just put it in the chat. If you could click on there, give us a tiny bit of feedback you'd like to share, mentors to students, students to mentors and staff, things that we can use to tell your amazing stories and shout out to you. And then when you've done that, you're free to go. You'll not leave room, but you'll leave room and exit meeting or something like that is the option. And I'll hang out in case anyone has any questions.
Thank you, Abby. Have a good day.
Thank you, Anna. Well done.